Hey there. All right. Today is Wednesday, and I wanted to connect with you and talk about a couple of things. So, after watching the video that I posted last night, I believe from Heather Richardson Cox, I became a very different person. And I encourage you to take the time to watch that video because it will give you a very comprehensive and necessary backdrop to what is happening. And most importantly, perhaps, a reminder that we are in a window of time right now. And I wanted to come on and talk to you today from the place where I am at personally, so that if it's a match for you, you can join me in a focused response to this window of time. You know, I feel that so I've been talking a lot about change that's imposed upon you. So everything that we are experiencing is intentional. The rapid fire changes that have monumental consequences that are dismantling the structure of our government, the rules by which we live, with the intention of isolating power into the hands of one person. Now, for me, I am taking this very seriously. I absolutely agree that this is a constitutional and political crisis. And for me, the word crisis means that it is requiring me to show up as a match to a crisis. So if a house is on fire, that's not the time to be discussing anything. It's the time to do everything you can to put the fire out. And so after watching that video last night, I learned a lot. Perhaps I should have known it, but that's okay. I know it now. And I wanted to come up here and talk to you about some things because I think that depending upon your relationship to adapt to change, this is breaking our brains. We don't know where to turn our attention. We're overwhelmed by the magnitude. We feel blindsided, caught off guard, however you want to describe it. But the worst thing we could do right now, no matter how real it may feel, is to allow ourselves to become stunned into non-action. Especially now that I understand we are in a window of time. Now, one of the things she said in the video yesterday that was very promising is that things are not going as well as it may appear for Trump and Musk and their administrational efforts to eradicate democracy from our country and to erase the Constitution as the principle upon which we have built our government and laws, as well as who has the power. So it was really inspiring to realize, okay, this is big, but it is happening. And it's happening with a specific agenda and purpose, which we all know now is true. And if you are concerned and if you don't know how to organize yourself, hopefully a few things I share with you today can help. The number one thing that she reminded us about is that people's response and our pushback is making a difference. So if your mind is canceling out the value or the impact of us calling our elected officials, you have to not believe that. That is single in its power. So there are all sorts of things online right now, actual scripts that you can use if you feel like you need them. Go get them. You can download them and it will help you organize your thinking for the phone call. Call all of your representatives. It doesn't matter if your mind tells you they don't care. That's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because we're in a window of time, and we now know that millions of people in America right now are calling their representatives. They're calling anybody and everybody. Like Lisa Murkowski, she's putting out a bill so that the Denali remains Denali. We are so far past that. It's unbelievable. Calling Lisa Murkowski, calling your representative, being super clear about your need for them to protect the Constitution and to flood those phone calls as much as you can. Maybe pick a day of the week, maybe do it at the beginning and the end of the week during the lunch hour. Whatever it is, keep it simple, but create a strategy for yourself. Have the script, have the phone numbers, and just be able to check that off on your list. I made my phone calls today. I made my phone calls this week. So number 1 on the action list is phone calls. Number 2 are these boycotts. Now, I understand why they are putting the boycotts at the end of the month, because the people online that are organizing this are doing everything they can. And when I say people, I mean people like you and me who have been asking themselves, what is mine to do? And now they're doing it. The boycotts are being organized so that we have time to get the word out, so that the number of people involved in the boycott on that specific day is measurable and impactful. Now, I'm already in my own boycotts. I don't have Amazon Prime, and I would hope that if your mind is convincing you that convenience is the value and you should not get off Amazon, I want to encourage you to realize that if we move into a dictatorship, it really won't matter how quickly we get our things. You may be saying, wow, that's kind of severe. Yeah, because that's exactly what's going on right now. The mind's ability to dismiss the severity of the situation is something to be mindful of. Not in a way to panic, though there's ample reason to panic. But again, panic doesn't allow us to be clear-headed, to have a personal plan, and to find others in our community with whom we can gather and find strength in numbers. So let me talk a little bit more about the boycotts. And I'll write this down at some point and you can have it. But if you want to write this down, you can. So the first boycott is February 28th, and it's a 24-hour boycott. Across the board, no purchasing anywhere for 24 hours. So that means do everything you have to do the day before, so that from 12 a.m. on February 28th, all the way through the 28th till 11:59 p.m. that night, we as a country are not purchasing anything. Because you see, we the people, we have the power, and guess what? We actually are the power. And our economic power is one of the greatest tools that we have right now to make an impact and to affect this moment. Second boycott is March 7th through the 14th, and that is a specific boycott of Amazon. The third boycott is March 21st through the 28th, and that is a specific boycott of Nestle and all the products that they have. And it's a lot. You have to do some of this research on your own. April 7th through the 14th, it's a boycott of Walmart. We're already seeing what's happening with Target. I'm telling you, we have the power. The economic power is in our hands. It always has been. But now we're seeing it as a strategy and a tool to wrestle the world away from fools. April 7th through the 14th, Walmart. April 18th is the second full 24-hour no purchases boycott. And then April 21st through the 28th is General Mills. There's a lot of people that I'm following on Instagram. It's really quite remarkable. Like everybody is doing what's theirs to do. One person I'm following is tracking the companies and the corporations that have canceled their diversity, equity, and inclusion services and offices. Another person is, monitoring which companies and corporations have funded the current administration. So there's just a lot of really good information out there. And I want to encourage you to find your source and stay with it. Okay? So that's the second thing. The first, phone calls. The second is the boycotts. I even thought it would be cool to get together with people and, be all together when we make the phone calls. Maybe that's something you want to organize, but you certainly don't need it. You could do it in the car, in the parking lot, in between errands, if that's what's yours to do. One of the things we can do is we can demand solutions from our representatives, and we can most definitely use the word Constitution and the need for them to protect our Constitution. A couple of things I found out last night that I thought was very, very powerful. Like farmers there's a lot of people right now, including Trump voters, who are having, buyer's remorse. I'm not dealing with that, but I'm just looking at the different groups of people across the country that are not okay with what's happening, right? But one of the things I saw was about the debt ceiling and the infighting with the Republicans. The Senate Republicans want tax cuts, and the House Republicans do not want to raise the debt ceiling. So things internally between the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans are at odds as it relates to the debt ceiling, and that's coming up March 14th. Now, I personally am not a fan of increasing the debt ceiling. However, what I learned last night is that if we hit our debt ceiling and we cannot pay our bills, guess what's going to happen? They're going to shut down the government. Right? So the Trump banner and the Musk banner is fraud and waste, yet they've shown no evidence of that at all. So you have to be awake and stay awake to what the real agenda is, because that's just all smoke and mirrors. What they're actually trying to do, obviously, is dismantle the government, and they're seemingly doing it quite swiftly and with some success. But again, not as much success as it appears, which is why I really appreciated that woman's video, and I highly, highly recommend it. The other thing that's going on is obviously in the Constitution, it's very clear Congress creates the laws, right? They pass the laws, and the president's power is to either sign or reject those bills. What Trump is trying to do, of course, is he's trying to center that power into the executive branch. Again, these are classic moves for dictatorship, right? So this is why it's a constitutional crisis. This is why there's all these lawsuits, because the Constitution says this is how we do it. This is who has the power. This is the process by which we govern. And so when that doesn't happen, we have lawsuits. I think there's like 14 plus states now that are suing Elon Musk specifically as it relates to his unconstitutional use of power in the current experience. On top of all of this, you've got the backlash that's coming from Europe after the whole connection with Trump and Russia and the other guy that went over there. I can't think of his name right now. Another thing she talked about is one of their distraction narratives is and will be, as we get closer to this debt ceiling, is that the Democrats are trying to shut down the government. Don't get into all of that. Don't respond. We know that that's not true. We know that that's not true. And as you find your little snippets of information that are going to become your narrative, you can use that. But just know that when those statements come out, it's to distract us. And we don't want to be distracted anymore. We want to understand what's happening. We want to understand what action steps can I participate in right now so that when I look back on this moment, I will see myself having done everything I could do to avoid this unprecedented moment here in America. And that's where I'm at. Am I still involved in the new design for living? Yeah, absolutely. It's simultaneously happening. You know, while I'm using my power and my time and my intelligence to use these action steps on my own, I'm also talking about a conversation in which we think about using this as a contrast. What is it we want to build up next? Let's see, related to your first point to make calls, check out the app 5 Calls to easily make calls to your representatives and get background on issues you choose. Thank you so much, JB. The app is 5 Calls, and I will get on that. Thank you very much. Anybody else has additional information, please put it in the comments, and I'll share with that. So not knowing who is doing what is intentional to cause chaos. And to be quite honest with you, as I said, you know, I've been talking about change for a long time, and this is why. Because depending upon how you're able to adjust to change is going to depend upon, you know, how much chaos and fear you feel and how quickly you're able to stabilize yourself in a place of neutrality. I mean, it takes practice, but we can do this moment. So not knowing who is doing what is intentional to cause chaos and fears. As I said earlier, however, our laws make it clear who is to do what and who has the power. Their narrative is very vague, and vagueness allows them to get away with their efforts to erase our normal channels of who's responsible for what. Okay? Let's see what else she said here. Anytime anybody uses the opening phrase, what about, is a process for disinformation. Like, in other words, they'll go back and they'll say, well, what about, you know, Biden? Or what about Clinton? Or, you know, and they'll do that as a means to engage us. And again, it's not worth our time. We don't have that kind of time. Why? Because we are in a small window of time right now. And I am happy to know that we are in a window of time because I believe in my power. I'm a fierce, powerful person. And I believe in your power, and that's why I'm making this video with you. Because I want to help you and I want to help myself clear the table, start fresh with what we can do right now to make a difference. Not everybody can protest. And so the boycott is something that everybody can do. We can do it privately so that we're not seen. We could do it from wherever we are. I guess the thing that made me the most concerned, because it made her the most concerned, was about the efforts to achieve a surveillance state. Now, we're already in that, but Musk's efforts to, because she says to herself in the video, why does he want the Social Security data? Why now is he going after the IRS? And that is because the IRS data bank and the Social Security data bank has the most data of the population than anything else. And of course, that is going to help this crazy man as it relates to AI and surveillance. So let me just find it here in my notes what she says about this, because it's really, really important to understand what she was saying here. The idea is that when they have data like they have with our Social Security and the IRS database, they are much more able to identify groups of people. I mean, we see what's happening with women right now. I think she talked about it being the SAVE Act, which, let's see, there's something in the SAVE Act that, well, it cuts back on who can vote, and it has to do with married women who changed their name, right? I mean, it's pretty comprehensive what they're doing. They come at it from the perspective of, oh, we're trying to curtail voter fraud, which of course we know already is nearly non-existent. But what it's really doing, it's creating election fraud by making it more difficult for women and minorities to maintain their right to vote. So when you get on your phone, the SAVE Act can be something that you make sure your representative is not voting for, because that's incredibly nasty. Two other things I just want to say. I'm just looking for my notes about the information that they're gaining. Basically, it just has to do with AI and Musk wanting to create a society in which we have to use all his platforms. And of course, this ability to survey, for surveillance, to identify us, to find us, to target us. Okay? But as she says, it's not a done deal. Now is the time to put pressure on them to protect our Constitution. The last thing I want to share with you is how close. People are talking about the next elections coming up. I think in 2 years. Personally, I'm looking at 2 weeks. I'm not saying those elections aren't important, but that's not mine to do right now, is to focus on that. What's mine to do is to focus on this window of time and to share this information with you in a way that I hope is helpful. So watch that video, watch it with a notebook, take your notes, take this moment seriously. I have a family member who's married with 2 kids, and his life is such where I don't know if he even has the time to wrap his brain around this. But guess what? I'm doing it for him, and I'm doing it for his family. Because if your mind is trying to convince you, or has already convinced you, that this is not a crisis, I want to encourage you to gently unhook from that narrative. That's a narrative of protection, and it's okay that the mind thinks like that, but it's not accurate. We are in a political and constitutional crisis right now. And to the degree that we can just shake off all the stuff that keeps us down, the depression, the concern, the fear, if we can just shake it off, get organized, find your action steps, and get on it. Because you do have the power, you are the power, and you may be called to be the leader. I don't consider myself a leader, but if this is what a leader does, then I am. Because I'm in with this 100%. Maybe you'll be called to talk to your family, friends. Maybe you'll do a video. Maybe you'll have people over your home. Whatever it is, whatever we do right now is without a doubt the most important window of time that we are in right now. This is it. Nothing else is going to matter if we allow this takeover of our government to have success. So the most important thing I came here to tell you today is that you have the power, you are the power. There are people organizing us with information, just like somebody put in about the app that you can download that gets you as clear as you can be on making phone calls, and challenge everything that your mind is telling you. Because I do believe that the beauty of a window of time is just that. It can go any way. Don't surrender this yet. Don't be confused by appearances. Some guy 2,000 years ago said something about not judging by appearances. It's really important to turn away from anything that is concluding on your behalf how this is going to come out. No, that is the beauty of the new design for living. And I will close with this. The beauty of the new design for living is that it reminds us that we are the architects. We are the ones that are creating the future, and we're creating it right now with every step we take. So if you don't like the way this is going and you want to do your part to grab that arc and pull it back towards a country that is certainly flawed, but not ready to lose its democracy to a bunch of power-hungry little boys, then wow, let's go. Let's do this. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Like I say, find the information, watch that woman's video. I'll post everything I can, and let's get this done. We can do this. We absolutely can do this. All right, I'll talk to you soon.